Hello and welcome to another episode of Oh So Curious. And today we are talking about Monkey Man. We're talking about Superman and Lex Luthor again. And then we're gonna get into the Toretto meter. That's gonna be fun. We're gonna Toretto meter Hollywood news this week. If you've been around the Oh So Curious block, then you probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, then this will be a very virgin experience for you. So I look forward to your reactions, like in the chat, in the comments, wherever you're watching. Just let us know what you think. But we also then will be looking ahead to civil wars and it's not civil wars, civil war. I don't know why I said wars. I mean, I won't get into that. But we will get into talking about Alex Garland, A24, what could be their biggest movie that A24 has ever put out. And it's certainly got a lot of buzz behind it. So we'll get into that. But before we do any of those things, I like to bring on screen my fellow co-hosts. So Angelina, John, how are you guys doing today?
The solar eclipse really got me. Yeah. Did you guys see it?
I did, yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't see. I saw it through my phone because I couldn't make the cardboard thing, and I didn't have any special glasses, so I had to.
Apparently, a lot of people traveled for this one, which I thought was strange.
I was traveling through New York this weekend, and basically there were these signs like arrive early, stay late. Because the path was going right through New York, because where I am in Connecticut, we had a very partial eclipse, but it was if you were especially if you're in Westchester County, which is like upstate New York. Well, upstate meaning it's outside of New York City, not like Buffalo. Well, Buffalo did get partial, but yeah, if you were like in
A
Westchester
lot of people
County, you
were
would get
going
a
to
lot.
Arkansas to see it.
Yeah, well, because it's
Midwest?
sort of it does this whole arc across, so. It started near Texas, Arkansas, and then it's worked its way up to the northeast into Canada.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so solar eclipses always just kind of fuck with the technology and my feelings. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't really like them. I could live without them. You know? You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's not gonna be another one, I guess, until like what,
For another 20
2044?
years, I was like,
Yeah. We will be in very different places by then. I mean, I don't know, we'll see. Uh, so
Sure. 20 years. I don't even.
20
I'll
years.
be 47, everybody.
Shit.
Good times.
Well, I'll probably be
Said.
50 or something like that. Actually, would I? Yeah, that actually 49 at least. We'll see. Anywho, so John, how was your how was your weekend?
It was fine. I didn't really do much. It just kind of was mostly just getting over a cold. So
Oh
if I
no.
sound a little nasally, that's kind of the reason why. But I've mostly gotten over it, thank God. But
That's
but
good.
yeah, that was screwing me up for the last 3 days. But luckily, it's mostly over. So hopefully, I can actually sleep well tonight.
I'm sorry you haven't been feeling well. Hopefully you feel better soon. I
Yeah.
think getting sick is
Just remember, take your vitamin C. Always remember that so you don't have to deal with that
I
level
take
of crap.
vitamins in the day and at night. I'm a big vitamin girly because I honestly, I don't, my sleep is in and out. I drink too much coffee sometimes. And if I do not get enough sleep and I do not take my vitamins, I do get sick. Dan, you and I last year were just bouncing back and forth the whole year. I
It
literally
was
one of us was
yeah,
sick at a time. It
it
was
was
terrible.
crazy. Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it was weird because I felt like I got more sick sick more often than I've gone in like any year that I can remember. Yeah, because it was it was a cycle, like every
Yeah.
month. Yeah, it was great. Anyway, well,
And then I kept getting it's good times.
well, exactly. It
Your
was just weird.
vitamins,
There was always
everybody.
one of us was always like trying to work through something on the show. But hey, now we have John. So if we're both sick, then John will carry
Yeah,
the show.
John, you gotta just be
I
prepared
have
for
a
it.
pretty
It'll
good immune
happen.
system, I will say. Like I've gotten through colds like pretty quickly, and I mean, I got COVID twice and I survived, so I'm still pumping, so I'm
Dude,
good.
I got it at least once. I don't know if I got it a second time. I feel like I did, but I don't think I tested for it in the moment. So I don't know. Maybe I did get it twice. I don't know.
So I
Anyway,
had OG COVID, y'all, before the vaccine came out, and I never got it again.
Damn. All right. Well, because your
We
body fought
built the
off the real
natural
thing.
immunity. We've
Yes,
got it.
exactly. I had some help, and then the vaccine was like, done my job. You're on your own, and then COVID attacked.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
but you know what
Well,
saves you from COVID is if you don't believe in the vaccine, then maybe you could just believe in Dom Toretto's family values.
I don't have friends. I got family. You don't turn your back on family. Brother never told you never threaten a man's family? What's real is family.
It's really good. I like it. So
Really good, but
we're gonna Toretto meter the news today, one quarter mile at a time, as it says down there. So I don't think Angelina has ever seen that before. So, but that was interesting. And John has gotten tired of it already because I've been hitting him with that all of last
Well,
week.
considering the fact that I'm
So-
sick of Fast and Furious at this point, and I'm sick of
Fair.
Dom Toretto,
Fair.
it's no.
He said no. No.
Stop.
We're done. No
Dude,
need.
it's. I mean, okay. All right. You know what? Without further delay, we've got a lot to get through, right? So we're basically we used to call this segment like quick hits, and then I was like, you know what? I have a way better idea, and like I already had the pieces, so I just put them together. So let's get into the news quick, and then we'll get into the Monkey Man review after, and then we have, of course, have Lex Luthor and Superman to talk about. But to start things off, there's been like a lot of headlines thrown my way today because the internet knows I'm a big Top Gun Maverick fan. I'm a big Top Gun fan in general. And I'll get into this later. But like basically, Top Gun Maverick was sued by the original the estate of the journalist who wrote an article back in the 80s on which the original movie was based. It was not based, but inspired by. And so he at the time got royalties from the original film, but there was a time deadline on it in terms of like when that agreement expired. So by the time, so it was in place when Top Gun Maverick went into production, like back in, I don't know, the late 2010s. Like, that movie got delayed like 5 times. But by the time it came out, because of all the COVID delays, it no longer Paramount was no longer bound by that agreement. But as you can imagine, when the movie made $1 billion, the family, the state of, I'm not going to do that to myself.
They
just yet,
said,
but
"Where's my money?"
the state, yes, exactly. The state of this journalist,
Where
at
is
least,
it?
they were looking for that moolah. They were like, like where is my money, or where is their money at? Now, basically, Paramount was like, we should dismiss this outright. But guess what? The court system is slow. And so over the course of 2 years, they've fought this battle to finally have, as it says on deadline.com, the copyright suit be dismissed against the studio, because basically they were saying, you don't own the copyright to this. Like, it has reverted back to us. And, therefore, give us all the moolah, baby. And then they were like, no, like, why the hell should we do that? We already gave Tom Cruise his bonus, so you don't even have that money. But it looks like Paramount won out the day. So Paramount is Top Gun today, and so am I. And now let's see what I really can't see anything with these glasses on, but let's see what Vin Diesel has to say about the.
I don't have friends. I got family.
Are you going to play that every time?
Yes, because that's Vin Diesel's input. That's a Toretto meter. You're rating the news, and Toretto meter thinks very highly of the news about Top Gun Maverick winning out at the lawsuit.
Process. So
Yeah. Yes.
Well, next up in the Toretto meter, we're actually talking about Netflix. They've laid off 15 employees in the film department. One of its main people were actually fired and replaced by Lynn,
his last name is Lin. What is his first name? Dan Lin. There we go. So Dan Lin is the actual one who was announcing this to Deadline. He was like, we're restructuring the whole department. He was actually replacing Scott Stuber, who was the former head of film division. But nobody knows if they're going to replace those 15 people, if they are just laying off because they don't have money. Yeah, so that's what's going on there. And it's not hard to say that it probably has to do with crazy inflation rates, the strikes. You can clearly feel the recession. It's here. It's getting worse. It's coming.
I mean, to me, so here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
In all seriousness, this whole change has been a year or two in the making at this point, because Scott Stuber leaving was like a long time coming. There was a build up to this where he came in and he had a particular strategy about what to do with Netflix movies. It was like go big or go home. They did that to mixed results. I mean, they had some fantastic results with like The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot and other movies of the kind. But then for every one movie that was really big, they had like a bunch that weren't really hitting. And for what they just decided that wasn't the strategy for them. Also, he pushed for a very theatrical first strategy. It's something that Netflix's CEOs are vehemently against. In fact, that was one of the big reasons why the strikes lasted as long as it did, because Netflix had a ton of objections. Netflix, Amazon Prime, those Silicon Valley streamers, and that has all sort of trickled into this here. And now they're completely restructuring their film department and changing up their strategy. So this has been a long time coming. And this is just it's always a sad day. It's terrible to hear the news that people lost their jobs, their livelihoods. And Dom Toretto does not like it when you turn your back on your family.
You don't turn your back on family.
So John, I think you had something for us next.
So the next thing is it turns out we are getting a Bruce Springsteen biopic. Headline is a little bit false. They haven't gotten Jeremy Allen White yet. He's still in talks, but it seems like it's going to be going that way. And it's going to be called Deliver Us from Nowhere, which is based on the 2023 novel of the same name, along with a overly long subtitle, as most of those books have. But yeah, so it looks like it's he's in talks to star, and Scott Cooper of Crazy Heart will write and direct the film. So he has that musician film sort of thing going on. So definitely an intriguing thing. Like Jeremy Allen White is really just cranking them out, not just like really interesting project.
Like, is he musically inclined? Do we know?
We'll find out.
I don't feel like any of his characters. I don't think he's in a band. Like,
I mean, Tommy Malik didn't sing either, and look how that turned out. So he got.
They look kind of alike, like sort of.
Yeah,
like I can.
His eyes are a little bit closer than.
Yeah. But I'm almost wondering if like God, what is his name from Stranger Things? He's in the band Joe, and they just had like a huge
Joe Keery.
No. It's like DJ O. That's his band. It's the guy that plays the young boyfriend that we don't like in the first season, but we love in the second.
Yeah, Joe Keery.
Not the tall one.
Steve Harrington.
Yes, him. There we go. Him.
Yeah, well, that's the character. Joe Keery is the actor.
Oh,
he's the actor. Yeah,
he's
the babysitter.
I didn't know his name.
Yeah.
I was like, I almost feel like he might have been like a better choice. Obviously, Jeremy Allen White has.
Jeremy Allen.
He has like
really
more star power.
Right,
he has more time.
I mean,
he's, like,
the dude is
coming off as the bear.
He was literally just in like a huge biopic. So I mean, he's like, I guess he's just kind of continuing that train. So honestly, the man's a terrific actor.
Oh, phenomenal! I love him.
Me and my parents binge watched The Bear within like a week. So like both seasons. So we love the show. He's excellent. My dad loved Shameless. Like that's you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
again, my dad brags like, "Oh, I liked him before like everyone started riding his dick." So like I
before
liked him before it was
his
cool.
stunning
You know.
ad. Was it for Guest or who was it for? His ad was like it stopped the
It
internet.
was
Everybody
Calvin
was
Klein,
like,
wasn't it? That famous
yeah.
ad that he did. Yeah.
Everyone was like, "Oh my god!"
Oh
No,
my God, he's now a sex symbol. Let's go.
yeah,
So
essentially,
I mean he's but the thing is it's like earned. Like he's
yeah,
terrific
he's
in
super
everything
talented.
he was. Oh my God, Iron Claw was an exceptional movie, and so he was excellent, and I mean all of them were great, but he was also really really good in that. So I mean the man's just really going for like everything.
He pulls up
Yeah,
the Calvin
yeah.
Klein ad.
Oh
Yes,
God,
those.
you're gonna get demonetized if you put that on screen. Jesus Christ.
Oh, we love him.
Um,
I mean, he's stunning. Yeah, he's always been stunning. I had the biggest crush on him when he was in Shameless. And when The Bear came out, I was like, damn, yes, nailed it. 10 out of 10. He's super talented. I'm just scared he can't sing. It's Bruce Springsteen, everybody.
they'll get a way around it. I mean, it's fine, but I'm
It's like,
excited
you
for it
can't play Bruce
if he does
Springsteen
land
if you
it.
can't. I guess Bruce Springsteen kind of had this like speak sing thing going on about him. So as long as he can at least like fake the guitar, he should be okay.
Yeah, he should be fine. But yeah, in one biopic to another, and he's really crushing it.
Yep, we love him. We'll
Good for him.
See how he does.
Next, I want to see a Gene Wilder biopic with him. So I think that would work.
Dan, are you talking? Because we don't hear you.
Yeah, you're muted.
I am muted. There was a lot of. I was just gonna say there's a lot of resemblance between Gene and Wilder. I would love to see that. I mean, not just for the sake of the resemblance, but also just the story.
Yeah. Just kidding around, obviously, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hey, Bruce Springsteen. There's a lot of good music that Bruce Springsteen has.
One of the few good things to come out of New Jersey.
My.
There's
a lot of things that came out of New Jersey that were good.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of stars from New Jersey.
I mean, yeah, Frank Sinatra. I can't think of anything. Jersey Mike's.
I'm really excited about the new Amy Winehouse biopic.
Yeah, that's all I could think of. Jersey Mike's and Frank Sinatra and The Boss. Those are the only things that come to mind with New Jersey.
Interesting. Okay.
I have a couple friends in New Jersey, but we're talking about they don't count because that's different. I'm talking about famous things, but
yeah.
But I'm like, that's about it. That's all I could think of. But yeah,
all right,
sorry, New Jersey. Not sorry. You're
Dan, give us a lowdown on Godzilla.
Well, I mean, before we got to find out what Dom Toretto thinks about the idea of Jeremy Allen White joining and potentially taking part in this Bruce Springsteen movie.
Yeah.
He has, I'm sure, his music, so definitely espouses of family. So.
What's real is family.
And the next story.
I've missed so much. Does he just say that over and over again throughout Fast and Furious?
Yeah.
You should definitely
you can make like a 2-hour compilation of just him with just family.
Family. Absolutely. So the next story I wanted to kind of get into a little bit of the box office. We'll get into this in more detail later when we talk about Monkey Man, but essentially, this weekend Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, stayed at the top of the box office, easily winning it, far and away. I mean, Monkey Man was never supposed to be a big movie. It's an indie film Monkey versus Monkey, though. I mean, you've got a lot of monkey. I mean, and then we've got the Planet of the Apes movie coming. So it's
this is the year of the monkey. Apparently,
the year of the monkey. But the box office numbers this weekend were definitely encouraging because we're still. I mean, and we'll get into this a little bit more. We have another story about this where the box office projections were not looking very good at the start of the year, and right now, when you look at all the movies that are out, we know Dune is already done way better numbers than the first movie. It's Dune Part 2 is bested the first movie by quite a bit. Kung Fu Panda 4 somehow out of nowhere, the fourth movie in the franchise, where the only reason people are going to watch this thing is because of Jack Black, is still doing really well. Frozen Empire, that Ghostbusters movie has got some terrible reviews, but people love it. And, like that's what matters at the end of the day is the money that comes in. That's what Sony cares about. And now Monkey Man and Godzilla to X Kong are there. Plus, we've got Civil War coming up, which, will probably land at the top of the box office unless Godzilla decides to, blow it up again. We'll see. So I just wanted to kind of quickly dive into this. If you look at it, Godzilla X Kong, negative 60% drop is not a huge drop. That's actually pretty good for a movie that opened as high as it did. That's expected. And when you look at Monkey Man, I mean, for a movie of its size, it started off really, really well because it had a budget of around 10 million. And John, we'll get into that a little bit more later because there's a story behind that being, how we got to that number. And, they could have been even bigger. But despite having such a tiny budget relative to a lot of the other movies that it's sitting around, like Ghostbusters, Godzilla X Kong, those are 9-figure budgets, hundreds of millions of dollars, and with a much bigger marketing budget too. Monkey Man came in at the debut weekend and made $10 million. It made its money back. And it's from here. It's just on. It's just going to be in the green. So that's great. And I just wanted to kind of quickly look back at the weekend's box office results. Plus, it gives us an excuse to look at there's 9 or 10 movies on that list. If you're going to a movie theater this week, you've got options. Even if you don't care for any of the big ones, you can go watch Mark Wahlberg. If you like your Mark Wahlberg movies, you can go watch Arthur the King.
I mean, why would you want to though? It's Mark Wahlberg.
I mean, but it's Mark Wahlberg,
why?
He's the guy doing his job. Like you're the other guy. Like it's just it's.
I mean,
unless
he has
you're watching the other guys,
but not much else.
The Departed, yeah. I mean, there's Immaculate. Isn't that the Sydney Sweeney horror film?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you liked Anyone But You, then and now that's not playing in theaters anymore, you just want more Sydney and Madam Web. Then there you go.
I wonder if it's giving more euphoria Sydney Sweeney over Anyone But You, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, Godzilla X Kong, which did top the box office. That movie definitely has a lot of family because you have, of course, Mini Kong. There's a whole there's a lot of apes in that film, and clearly Dom Toretto appreciates the action and the bionic arm. I mean, Dom Toretto doesn't need a bionic arm; he's got family.
Your brother never told you never threaten a man's family?
I liked that take. I did.
Yeah.
It was a good take.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, getting a little bit deeper into the box office numbers, Angelina, what's...
Yeah. So, 2024 global box office projections are revised, which is incredible. So, originally, the box office projection, and it's actually a firm, Gower Street Analytics. It's a firm out of London. So, originally, they estimated for 2024 $31.5 billion for the box office, but they actually had to revise it because we made way more money. The box office made way more money than anticipated in the first quarter. So they had to update it. The new projection is $32.3 billion, which is, not, I mean, I'm like 0.8 billion. It's really not that much. It's a lot of money. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
That's a whole Guardians of the
It's
Galaxy.
not a whole
Volume
movie,
3.
but it's almost a whole movie.
Well,
to make a
0.8
whole new movie.
That's almost $1 billion. That's basically how much money Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 made. That's a big.
LOL.
I mean,
I just did bad math in my head, guys.
It's significant.
Camera.
I mean,
But
here's the thing.
That is several movies. That is like a Marvel's movie that came out in box office. Right.
In terms of budgets, it's quite a few movies, but in terms of making money at the movies, it's a lot of it's a whole movie. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was in the top 5 last year. It was the third or fourth highest grossing.
Also Super Mario Brothers and everything like that. So it's essentially movies. One of those dropping again at the movie theater. That's that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it is actually 5% down from the projections or from what 2023's numbers were. They're estimating it's negative 3% with the current exchange rates, but essentially
higher ticket prices.
2024 is just not going to be as hard hitting as 2023 was. And I think that's just sort of the unfortunate sort of spillover from the strikes, right? It's everything was delayed, everything got moved, got pushed. So things had to get moved off of the 2024 schedule.
And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Marvel moved like most of their slate out. Now the only
Yeah.
Marvel movie you have this year is MCU Marvel movie
Didn't we
is
have the
Deadpool and
Marvels?
Wolverine. Well, we had the Marvel that was last year, and then this
Oh,
year
did it come
we
out
have had
officially last year? I don't even remember.
we have Madam Web this year. What's the Aaron Taylor Johnson one? Why am I forgetting this guy's
Kraven the
name?
Hunter.
Oh,
Craven the Hunter.
And we're getting
But
Venom
those are all
3.
Venom 3.
This
Those are all
Venom the
Sony
Last
Marvel.
Dance specifically. They did
The
release
Last
the
Dance.
subtitle.
I'm
So as far
excited
as
for
MCU
Kraven the
goes,
Hunter.
Yeah, because abs. We're getting
Yeah,
Aaron
well,
Taylor
also,
Johnson abs.
so I had the biggest crush on Aaron Taylor Johnson because he was in this movie called Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging, which was very much like a
fuck me.
Nickelodeon teen movie.
Yeah, my
when
friend
I was
forced me to
like
watch that.
9.
He loves that movie.
So I was like
And
9 years
keep in
old,
mind,
right?
He is also a 27-year-old man, and he
Yes.
unironically loves that movie. And I'm like,
Yes.
when and where did your mother drop you on your head when you were a baby?
It's
Just
such a good
curious,
movie.
just
And it's so cute because when you look back at the movie, only 2 of those actors are still going for it. And it's Aaron Taylor Johnson and then the girl who plays the best friend. And I cannot remember her name, but she only had like a super tiny ass part adjacent Keira Knightley in like a smaller movie that Keira Knightley did. And that's the only thing I've ever seen her in since. But Aaron Taylor Johnson is killing it despite the fact that his social life is a little controversial on the scene.
Well, I mean, like I mean, if you're going to see the movie, well, to each their own. I personally usually can separate the artists from their art in that sense, but
no.
sometimes it can get messy.
I'm just saying he's getting cast despite this because there was like a lot of hubbub and people did not like it in Hollywood, and for a long time he didn't work.
Yeah.
Because he was like on the up and up, and then he married this woman that was like so much older than him that he disappeared for a while. Then he came out in Superbad, and then he disappeared for longer. So
well, I mean, he's been killing it recently. Like even going back to his MCU days, which lasted for one movie. He was in. Huh?
I think that was his choice, wasn't it? He was like, I don't want to come back.
Well, it was a whole dispute with Fox because they were they had Quicksilver in X-Men Days of Future Past. So there was like kind of like a weird thing.
It was an exchange because they were like Marvel was allowed to use Scarlet Witch, but they couldn't use Quicksilver for more than one movie because X-Men had a whole. That was the exchange. So they let because Scarlet Witch is technically an X-Men character. So like they were like, we want to, because it was weird. It's a rights. I mean, it's not a problem anymore because Marvel bought out Fox. Well, Disney bought out Fox.
Yeah, I think it was. You know what happened was they're like, okay, let us use we'll use Quicksilver, but you have to let us use Ego the Living Planet because they wanted to do that for Guardians 2.
Yeah.
So it was like a whole
thing,
business
like a
deal.
whole thing. Yeah.
So with that being said, box office projections have been fixed, and hopefully they have to sort of reconfigure halfway through if we keep going to the movies.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, $0.8 billion. That's about the amount of money that the last Fast and Furious movie made, and that's what the kind of thing that Dom Toretto appreciates.
People are still going to see those movies at that level.
Unfortunately,
that's so crazy to me. Sorry,
I don't have friends. I got family.
Yeah, John, I think you have the next story for us. We're getting close to the end of the Toretto meter, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on in the world of movies.
So it looks like that our next thing is that we're getting somehow another Matrix movie, although
somehow
not with the
Matrix
Wachowski sisters, without the Wachowski sisters in terms of a directorial involvement. Obviously, Lana is going to be executive producer, thanks to the headline, but we are getting Matrix 5 as it's called, which will eventually change into Matrix R something, Matrix Redux, I don't know. But we are getting another Matrix film, even though Matrix Resurrections
we didn't want one. Even though we didn't want one.
Lambasted I don't know how
Dude,
much
I
money
thought
that
it was
made,
actually like
but
very meta, and like they purposefully like were like.
just because it's meta doesn't mean it's good.
I
You
mean,
know,
Facts.
fine, whatever.
Facts.
like
Did
I
you remember I was like ripping this movie a new one and I wanted to like it so hard and I was just like,
yeah, I didn't even
oh,
bother. I was just I watched this trailer. I'm like, this movie looks like
this is so
garbage.
bad.
And
Like truly
yeah,
so
like
bad.
they didn't even want to do it. It was like a whole thing. So the fact that they're doing another one, it's like it's just confusing at this point. And it's weird because it's like you have Drew Goddard, who is an exceptional talent, who
Yeah.
kind of just
He
nobody
brought
like
the
he did.
idea. This is
It's
his idea though.
It's his
He
idea.
pitched this.
Yeah.
I don't know
So-
why. Like, out of all the things you can like, you did The Martian, you did
Maybe he thinks he can
Friends at
save
Battle
it
Royale or
from
whatever
its
that movie was, which was also
depths
great.
that it was
I mean, but
plunged
he
into.
didn't direct it though.
No, but
He
it's just
wrote.
like, but then he
things.
also did Cabin in the Woods. He wrote Cabin in the Woods. He did all these like great movies and worked with all these great people. And it's like, okay, out of all the things you want to do The Matrix 5 when it should have ended after the first one. So, which in and of
That's
itself was a
not
bad
nice.
ripoff of
I
Dark
liked the
City
second
anyway.
one.
So, like, I don't know. It's just weird to me. I don't. It just like doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's
Dude, Angelina, do you remember like I messaged you when I saw this story and I was like just flabbergasted at the idea that they were even because this
I mean,
franchise
it's
seemed like it was
still
dead and
kind of-
buried.
Yeah, truly. Like the fourth one was so bad. And I just
Mhm.
remember thinking, damn, Keanu needs to just I mean, he's got to fold and like get a stunt double. He's just getting too old to do this shit. Like it's not looking good. However, I remember really loving the dog. So like
Yes.
no, I'm confusing it with John Wick now. See, that's how bad it was.
But the thing is, like, he had the whole same look. Like that was the thing because that look of Keanu Reeves is now just associated with being John Wick. And for the majority of the movie, he's just walking around looking like John Wick. So it was kind of hard because people have this very specific vision of what Neo looks like as a character, and it doesn't really change too much throughout the
filming
trilogy.
at the same time, and that's why.
I don't know if that was the reason, but I
No.
mean, it could have been part of it. I mean,
Well,
that happened
I think
obviously with
it's just-
when
Superman.
did Resurrections come out?
It's just his look now.
Resurrections came out during the pandemic, 2021.
Yeah.
So
and Chapter 4 came out last year, so I don't think it was them filming.
no, that's Resurrections. This Chapter 4. You're talking about Matrix Revolutions. That was the third
No.
one.
I'm saying, Angelina was saying how John Wick Chapter 4
Chapter
and
4.
Resurrections were filming back to back, or filming at the same time. But I don't think that's the case because
no,
they
they
weren't.
weren't.
Difference.
But there was So there was originally until the pandemic delayed one of the both movies. They were gonna drop on the same weekend. There was gonna be John Wick. There was Keanu versus Keanu at one point until everything got in the way.
Maybe it was Chapter 3 then.
Probably. Well, you might be right. Yeah, I think you might be right. Because exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
sorry. I just both of them are fourth movies. I got my wires crossed. Again, Keanu, get a new look. Jesus Christ, no, I'm just kidding. But I got my wires crossed. That's my bad.
But the point is, look, ultimately, like I think Drew Goddard is a great talent, and as you said as well, I mean, he wrote The Martian. Like it's one of the best sci-fi movies of the last decade and a half. It's all just the last decade, and it's probably the only good Ridley Scott movie that he's done in this century, quite frankly. So and if Drew Goddard was behind it, I mean, and then when you look at the amount of talent that they had in Matrix Resurrections, it's a movie that I feel like, I mean, I personally still have a overall positive attitude of it, but I won't lie to you, I still agree with John that if it really comes down to it, it's like the Matrix franchise is very much like the Terminator franchise, where I think they only needed one movie. But I mean, with Terminator, fortunately, the best movie is the second one in the franchise, and after that, it sort of goes off the chain.
Salvation's a guilty pleasure, I will say. It's
well,
not
yeah,
great, but
I never watched the Terminator movies. I'm so sorry.
Well, the second Matrix film was the one where they had that whole highway chase sequence, right? I'm thinking,
that's Reloaded.
That was.
I liked the second Matrix movie.
Yeah,
I remember that being like one of my more favorite movies. The third one felt a little too too much. There was like a lot going on.
Well, by the end of the Matrix franchise, they all did practically feel like family.
I don't have friends. I got family.
And
So
that brings
Dan
us to-
wins dad jokes of the year, everybody.
Of the year, yeah, thank you. That's my vibe. That's what I'm going for. But all right, so this is the last story in the Toretto meter, and this definitely fits the bill because when I was watching, parts of WrestleMania, I wasn't able to watch the whole show, but this was like and something that we anticipated as wrestling fans. The community hasn't been anticipating for a year because Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns were in the main event of Mania last year, and Cody Rhodes lost, and it was like a big deal. And this year they were gonna have a rematch, and they did. And then WrestleMania 40 is also the first WrestleMania since Vince McMahon, who's owned the company for at this point almost half a century, he's no longer in charge, and so it's a very different looking WWE. And it's was in Philly, so the crowd was raucous. And at the end of the night, Cody Rhodes, and if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry guys, we ruined it for you. WrestleMania 40, if you were under a rock, Cody Rhodes did in fact pin Roman Reigns and win it, and he's now the new WWE undisputed world heavyweight champion, or universal champion, whatever the name of the title is, if they're going to change it. But at the end of it all, unlike what we have ever seen in WWE, or like for a long time at least, they had like Triple H, who's the lead of creative, come out and shake his hands. You had all these other superstars, like usually they call kayfabe, or like they're in storyline, so there's good guys and bad guys, so they're not meant to be seen hugging each other in front of the camera. But like this was one of those rare moments, and then Cody Rhodes' family, his mom and his wife and everybody were in the ring, and they hugged it out, and it felt very organic, in a way that WWE always feels very staged, and it's very different. And so what they're calling it is like this is the beginning of a new era for the company and for their brand of programming and entertainment. And for somebody like me who values that kind of
everybody
thing,
loved the old school. Like my great grandma
Yeah.
was a huge fan. She was
Mhm.
literally she watched it on. I don't even know how old this TV was, but when I tell you this TV was like the biggest TV, but like not like one of the new ones, right? Like the big ones that were like
it was the
this,
Yeah, the booth
this
Right.
thick,
yeah.
like huge,
Yep.
like a
Mhm.
big block on the floor.
Yep.
It was the most ginormous TV, and she'd just sit there with her WWE blasting as she was
Yeah.
crocheting her little towel.
Yeah.
Very, very cute little German woman.
Yeah, well, hey, I mean, also, like, Cody is Dusty's son. He's Dusty Rhodes' son. Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. Cody Rhodes goes by the American Nightmare. So, it was a very family affair. And I think Dom
Full
Toretto
circle
would
moment.
appreciate that. Yeah.
I don't have friends. I got family.
With that, we bring to an end the news. Well, what do we call it? The Toretto metering the news. I'm making that into a verb now. It's no longer just a meter. It's how we describe what's going on in the world of movies. So let's move on. And we're gonna get into. But by the way, before I do move on, guys, if you enjoyed that, let us know in the comments. We do appreciate the feedback. The Toretto meter could be here to stay if it's a hit. It's a personal favorite of mine, but I'm a bit biased. And John is clearly on the opposite side of the fence.
I
So
think we're both on the opposite side of the fence.
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Well, you know what? I will happily be the lone
He's like, well, it's
The
my
lone
fucking show, so I can do
Toretto
what the
lover.
hell, whatever the hell
other
I
side
want.
of the fence.
Yeah. Jen says
Well,
supremacy. He says it's my show. But that's okay, everybody. Here at Oh So Curious, we try all the things. We see
Yeah.
how it goes. But you let us know what you like. And if you hate the Toretto meter as much as we do, let us know.
Hit the dislike button.
Don't hit the dislike button. That's bad. Hit the like button
You
and
know,
then in the
it's-
comments
Like
be like,
button.
It adds
Like
I'm
button.
with
some sort of-
Angelina and John on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Just
Please,
post
I
in the
appreciate
comments,
it.
be like, we dislike this. All right, it'll give us the algorithm and all that shit. So just say you dislike it in the comments. All right.
Yes. All right. Well, with that, let's get on to movie of the week. This is something that I've been very excited about. I've been looking forward to this since I saw the first trailer like a month ago, and quite frankly, they haven't really been marketing this movie enough. Like Monkey Man is a film that Dev Patel has worked very hard on, and Jordan Peele went and convinced Universal to just take this movie on, and was like, "Hey man, you gotta put this in theaters. You gotta give this movie its due." So today we're gonna get into that. We're gonna review Monkey Man, but before we do, let's take a quick look at this.
This is Dev Patel's feature directorial debut.
This new action-packed thriller is called Monkey Man.
This movie is badass.
You've got to really, really love what you're doing. Your passion for film in this movie just beams off the screen.
So this is your directorial debut.
And, I mean, a very bold directorial debut. Looks like this is the work of somebody who's been directing for ages. So
the fight scenes in this and the chase scenes in this are fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monkey Man. So let's talk about Monkey. It's a great film. Like honestly, Dave Patel is directing it. He's starring in the movie. Of course, when you attach Jordan Peele's name to it, that's gonna help bring in a crowd. And I'm excited to hear all about it because I've only been able to get glimpses of it so far. And I can, I've already been, in love with the film because I've recognized a lot of the other actors who are like from other Indian like TV and movies. So I'm into it, and I love the brand of action and just the cinematography of it. But we're gonna talk to two people who actually went and saw the movie. So Angelina and John, you guys went and saw Monkey Man. So I want to start. So John, I want to start with you here quick because I think you went to see it, but you weren't quite feeling very well. So how was your experience watching something like this? There's a lot of action. There's a lot going on. Like there's some thick accents. So how did you take it all in?
So I was, as I mentioned before, I was really sick. So, and when I was going into theater, I was like kind of like, a little congested and going into it like, okay, yeah, I can survive, being in the dark for 2 hours and watching a movie. And then once those lights went down, that was a different story because I like immediately became exhausted, like super congested, and my throat was like it was sore, like it just went from like bad to worse. And so I was like really getting into this movie. I really wanted to watch this movie, see this movie. I was really into it, and it just like I was just so exhausted. So I definitely want to try and rewatch this because it was so good, and I want to give it the money it deserves, and I want to give it the attention it deserves because it most definitely deserves it. Because Dev Patel, in terms of like the man has been acting for a while now, like about like I don't know if Slumdog Millionaire was his first
That
movie.
was like
but
late
that was like
2000s.
yeah, that was one of his
Yeah.
first movies. So at least that's what like shot him to stardom,
Yeah.
at least.
I mean, it won an
stardom.
Oscar, Best Picture. Yeah.
So
it was
Yeah.
he has been cranking out a lot of great movies. I remember going to see Lion. He was also excellent in that. Also nominated for an Oscar. But yeah, he's shown on many, 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 many occasions how talented he is as an actor, and this is no different. But now he's behind the camera, as we have said, and he has a lot of promise, most definitely. I think with a lot of the budget cuts that he had to deal with, and he still created a product that was so well executed and so well done that even my sick, delirious ass was having a lot of fun with it. But it still had, and what he was aiming for was he's like, I feel like a lot of action movies are kind of stuck in this loop where he was saying, well, I want them to have like a visceral, like emotion to it. Like a lot of them, I feel like I want them to have like equal parts drama and action, so the action means something, and also throw in a little bit of culture for good measure, as this is a very like Indian film, and it very much feels like it. And I feel like he did those aspects very, very well. All the acting was superb. The action was surprisingly excellent. Even though I know a lot of people were kind of iffy on this about the extreme close-ups and the editing. I thought those were also really good. I like that unique. It was sort of like a peek into what his style could be as a director, because like every director has their own unique style.
Yeah.
All the good ones, at least. So he definitely offered something really great in terms of that. It's just that the pacing at points was a little slow. Again, that might have been the sickness delirium on my part, but it was still like there were still some lulls here and there that could have been, I feel like, ironed out a little bit. And the thick accents from everyone who were
Yeah.
Indian actors was a little bit too thick for my liking. I still could
Yeah.
understandably hear all of it, and it was fine. It didn't impede on it, but it was a little bit of a nitpick. But overall, Monkey Man was an absolutely excellent affair, and I think Dev Patel has yet another amazing type of career ahead of him in terms of directing, because we've seen he's an excellent actor. He is just every movie he brings his A game, and I hope that that's the same behind the camera, because he brought his A game here, and I would say this is an A movie. Maybe not A
Yeah.
plus, I would say like A minus.
A
So it
minus.
does have some
Yeah.
flaws, but I think he absolutely just knocked it out of the park here in terms of, especially in terms of, a directorial debut. So most definitely Patel, he's rocking all types of film jobs, whether that be
Yep.
acting, whether that's directing. Now I want to see him
Well,
be a banger editor, an amazing composer, awesome cinematographer.
So
He could do everything.
okay, you know what's crazy? You remember that show I was like trying to find the name of
yeah.
last episode, Skins? So Dev
Oh,
Patel actually
yeah.
started in Skins,
No
which
effing way.
I like totally didn't remember. He was one of the characters alongside Nicholas Hoult too.
Yeah, who is
So crazy.
Wow.
Like
Lex
Skins
Luthor.
really was like the sort of
Hey,
American
yeah.
Euphoria in the sense of like
That's
who it brought. It was very grungy. Yeah,
yeah.
I totally forgot. So he's been on the scene for a long time, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
And this definitely was one of those moments where it was like, this movie was so incredible considering the layout, the dynamic. If you consider everything that went into this movie, Dev Patel is a genius. My biggest issue with this movie, and I don't know if it just like the audio was off in my theater, but it was so hard for me to understand some of the actors, not Dev Patel. He spoke English so well, but like with no accent, is what I mean. Sorry, guys. But my biggest issue was there are so many Indian actors that have such a thick accent when they speak English that it actually made it really hard for me to fully understand it as quickly as the dialogue went. So when John kind of talks about pacing, it's like certain scenes are really fast and then certain scenes are really drawn out, and it feels like a little uneven in the sense like normally the action scenes are much quicker, right? These get way more time, which lends like a sort of grunginess and grittiness to the film that I really loved. But then there are certain scenes in the movie that are like so quick, and I'm like, I just wish you guys would have like slowed down. Or I honestly would have preferred that the movie just be filmed in like Hindi with subtitles. You know what I'm saying? Like I would rather just have the subtitles so that I can fully understand and fully appreciate the movie to its whole. And I feel like I would have to literally rewatch this movie at home with subtitles in order to get the full context of all of the conversations and all of the background characters. And for me, like John said, it wasn't really like too much of a takeaway, but for me it was difficult because I really wanted to invest in these characters and I really wanted to give it my all and fully understand the backstory because it's a beautiful film. Graphically stunning. It feels like a real true depiction of India's underbelly, which I feel like a lot of people don't talk about. Like when I was in India, they were like, no, you can't go to Delhi, you can't go here, you can't go there because there is so much like crime on the underneath. But I feel like we don't really know anything about that. And I felt like I was getting like a first glance of like little bits of what that would look like. And it was so interesting and so cool. Also, I have to give a shout out because oh my gosh, I lost the IMDb page. This woman that plays like one of the hostesses, I guess you would call her nicely. She was stunning. She was like one of the most beautiful people I have ever seen in my life, and I need to see her in more movies. Dev Patel was incredible. The action scenes are incredible. And also, going towards like what John said, the way the movie is shot is really cool, and the action sequences feel different. They don't feel like the same, like hut hut gun. You know what I mean? Like it even
it doesn't
felt
feel like it's like what's the like regimented almost like it's like
yeah,
okay, we have to do this now, we have to do this now. And I like
yeah,
how you put that really well because I like how like the boxing scenes were all these like extreme gritty close-ups, and then
yeah,
once he finds like his true self on what to fight for, who to fight for, because like he was just throwing these fights to get money, but then later on he's like kind of unlocking what his true potential is that he had all along and he knew he had, but he's like, I'm finally gonna unleash that. And it's almost like the action kind of accompanies that like
yeah,
development, like it becomes like less grimy gritty, and it was more like kind of this like, oh, it's like we're showcasing this action properly, because in
hmm
the final fight scene in the third act, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it showed like these long stretches of like everything going on, maybe some close-ups here and there, like to show his emotion, because he's angry,
yeah.
he's an angry man, he has every right to be, but we kind of still see that like sort of these long drawn, like, hey, we're showcasing everything. He still has that anger, but it's more checked because he knows that he needs to fight for something properly after all these events that happened to him in the film. So I really like that as well.
I will
A
definitely say that this movie is like a
great thing about
full
it.
circle movie. You not only get to see sort of this man's origin story, but you see where he is, who he is, how he is, and then you get to see him, I mean, like glow up in a sense. So you only almost get like there's like some Rocky inspo in here. There's a little bit of the Karate Kid up in here. Then you get like some John Wick style fighting, but also with kickboxing, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It just seemed so much more realistic in a way because it was the way it was filmed. And I
Right.
don't know if Dev Patel used a whole lot of stunt doubles. Like I think he was doing this stuff himself.
That wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, it looked like Dev Patel was doing all of it himself. It was like,
And stunts.
okay. Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, so the ratings on this movie, I think hold up to exactly what we were saying. It's not a perfect movie, but it is a phenomenal movie. Right now on the cinema score, it has a B+. Its Rotten Tomato score, 88% on the tomato meter, 83% on the audience score. I feel like that's in line with how I feel with a movie. Like, especially for a movie that was originally supposed to go to Netflix, you guys, and Jordan Peele is the only reason it came to theater. For a movie that was made for $10 million, it's already made back what went into it. And I think this is probably one of the best $10 million, which is pretty low on the budget scale, y'all. $10 million, like that.
Yeah, I mean that's what Godzilla -1 was made for, and look how that turned out. So
That's insane to think that they spent only 10 million on that. Like, wow. Like,
yeah, it's because it's like it's so weird nowadays. It's like, oh, 10 million, not like 100. No, 10.
yeah.
What? And
Crazy.
it's just so crazy to think about because it feels like almost it's either every movie is like either 100 to 300 million dollars, like with Marvel and shit like that, or you're getting like really small indie productions that are like maybe 1 or 2 million. So it's like 10 to like $50 million movies are like kind of weird. I don't want to say extinct, but it's just like weird. Like, oh my god, like it's
Well,
so like
wasn't
weird to have.
well, Angelina, do you remember that the Oscars this year there was one of the guys who won, I forget which award he won, but in his speech he thanked everybody for for the award, but then he sort of went through this just kind of appealing to the executives in Hollywood, like, hey, I got this opportunity and we made something for like 30 odd million dollars, and I think we need to, instead of make, $500 million movies, we can make 12, $30 million movies. And I forget who, but like that he really appealed to. And then that's not an idea that's, as novel in the sense that people have been wanting to see that. And I think it's one of those things where we're just sort of a trend in the direction where studios know if you spend $150 million, you're more likely to get $1 billion. It's not guaranteed, but still, like, you're more likely to, if you're going to spend $150 million on a IP based movie like a Planet of the Apes or a Marvel, you have a higher ceiling, versus it's maybe riskier to spend 10 million or 30 million
fully
on a
the risk,
Man.
right? Because you never know what is going to work. But I am so sick, and I think a lot of people feel this way. I am so sick of the algorithm of like, let's take a movie from the 80s and remake it. Now a movie from the 90s. Now a movie from the 2000s. And we're just going to keep repeating until we've redone them all. And it's like, no, I don't want to see Mean Girls 2.0. Did I watch it? Did I kind of enjoy it? Yeah, but I didn't want to see it. I didn't need that. Okay, Renee Rapp, fabulous. She's great. She grew on me since I watched the movie. We love her. But nobody can ever top the original Regina George, y'all. So, and I think that's the thing about this movie. Dev Patel has so much merit in the sense that he made a story that maybe pulls from so many different things, but is wholly Indian in the way that it is made. And I think that is incredible. I don't think he Americanized it in any way. That is the best way to bring an Indian movie into the American sort of global box office, not American, but it's into Hollywood. And he did it so well, and it's just such an incredible.
Most definitely.
He fully sent that movie, and I would take this movie over any remake ever.
Oh yeah, easily.
I don't need a fifth Matrix, but you can give me a new Dev Patel idea. Like, I'd watch that. You know what I mean?
I original stuff, man. That's like kind of what a lot of people have been saying for a while, but it's like that's not the stuff that makes money, because it's like people still want to go see Marvel movies, which isn't bad. It's just like, don't crank them out on an assembly line, and then we start to see the cracks in the quality, and it's just like, maybe you actually work on your movies. But yeah,
I just don't think that they can keep that up at the rate that they have been keeping it up as DCU.
And I'm all for movies that $10 million foreign films that are making bank at the box office because they just have genuine passion behind them.
I mean, many of the 90s and early 2000s movies that were absolute cult classics, indie movies, phenomenal indie movies. Fight Club, come on, let's go.
Oh yeah,
like we need to get back to that era. I need the new Angelina Jolie. I need her, like her at her height of like phenomenal grunge in the late 90s. Chef's Kiss, my favorite. Gia, phenomenal movie, 10 out of 10. So I would like to get back to that era, and I think we're going to be forced there sooner than later.
What we need.
Yeah.
Sorry that I keep cutting you off. I don't mean to.
No, you're
but,
so fine.
It reminds me of what the studio system was in the 60s. It was we were, because like the 60s was one long decade of like old Hollywood trying to stay relevant, and eventually with counterculture and all this other stuff, it would just became like a downturns of like, you have like stuff like Easy Rider and all that stuff coming in, or Two Lane Blacktop, all these movies that are like, really small, like gritty, realistic stuff. Eventually they hit the reset button because it was Bonnie and Clyde and Night of the Living Dead that essentially killed the Hays Code and birthed the MPAA into existence. So, and then we got the best decade of movies, the 1970s, and where we just got these amazing, like cranked out all these amazing movies.
That's what brought you Star Wars,
and Jaws, and Martin Scorsese's best movies, and like Sam Peckinpah, all these guys that are just extraordinary at their craft. So that's
American
because
Graffiti
Hollywood
before Star Wars.
Yeah, that's because Hollywood hit the reset button, because that's what they need to do. Now we've been kind of teetering at that point for the past, I don't know, 15-ish years, kind of, maybe 10 years. I'll give it 10 years. But it's just like Hollywood refuses to die and they just fucking need to at this point. Hollywood needs to burn and die and become reborn like a phoenix out of the ashes. We need that to happen. So we can
anybody
start
looking to
getting great
join
movies
John's
again.
cult will drop his info in the comments. Until then,
not
though,
literally burn, metaphorically burn, but I'm just saying. So we're not like dealing with these dead friends.
Yeah.
Like when there's no more creativity
this is a
left in
great shot, by the
Hollywood,
way.
Dead franchises will walk the earth. That's what it's gonna be for the next 10 years if they don't figure this shit out. Where it's like we don't want to see that. Just reset, burn,
Let it
die,
die.
reborn.
Let it die.
But with that
Let the
being
past
said,
die.
I really think that Dev Patel has his finger on the pulse. I think maybe he's a little ahead of his time in a way because he's getting back to what I think true cinema should be. And I think for his first directorial debut, he killed it. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great movie just by having seen the trailers, some clips behind the scenes, and hearing you guys talk about it. I'm even more excited to now go check it out. I'm gonna first opportunity I get, I'm gonna be going to see this. And I mean, hey John, maybe you need Monkey Man to help you, burn it down. But there's also, if Monkey Man doesn't suffice, then we can also probably bring in, Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows, and that's going to be maybe what we will get into a little bit more down the road with DCU Daily. But today we're going to get into some DCU Daily and talk about Lex Luthor is the villain of the new Superman movie. I do not get that whatsoever because this would be like the fourth iteration of live action Superman in cinema, and we're getting Lex Luthor as the villain again. So we're going to get into that in a bit, and John has some strong opinions about that. So we'll be right back on the show to dive into all of that and so much more. All right, so let's get into, Superman. So welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. As always, we are here talking about the latest in the world of DC. And, well, James Gunn seemingly has got everything right up until this point, but now we get the news that, and he was very adamant about this, that Lex Luthor is the villain of this new Superman movie. And he went about it in saying Superman is the protagonist, and so you don't get it twisted, Lex Luthor is the antagonist. Now that would make it like the fourth or fifth live action iteration of Superman where the first villain we get is Lex Luthor. I mean, it's not, well, Michael Shannon played General Zod, and we did get that in the first Christopher Reeves movie as well. But Lex Luthor is always there, and I just get the feeling that maybe it's a tired trope. Maybe this is the first misstep, or at least, I mean, of course, it's been locked in for a while because the script and everything is there. But this is the first that we're hearing of it officially. So is this a good move or a bad one? That's what we're here to answer. And John,
Bad
you
move.
have
Bad
a
move. I will
very
cut you off
strong
there.
opinion on
Bad
this.
move. Bad fucking move. Okay, so here's the thing. I've been having theories about this. I mean, if you watch DCU Daily, I've had my theories on what the movie is going to be about, and most of the theories are Lex Luthor in the background. He'll be his Machiavellian chess player self, but he's just going to be a guy that's introduced, maybe someone who's not hated yet, maybe someone who's not a villain yet, but he's just kind of in the background. The main villain might be, just nobody. Maybe it's just the concept, the idea of edgy superheroes being, too much for Superman, and him just being like, hey, be cool, be awesome like me, because I don't fucking like murder people. I'm not like edgy. I'm not Homelander or Omni-Man. I'm Superman, okay? I'm fucking awesome. Be like me. That kind of shit.
Be like Superman. Yeah, be like Clark.
So it's just, how many fucking movies have we gotten? Superman movies. We've gotten Superman the movie. We've got Superman 2, Superman 3, Superman 4, Superman Returns, and Man of Steel. 6 movies. How many of those movies have Lex Luthor in them? That many. That many movies. It's Superman the movie, he's the main villain. Superman 2, he's co-villains with General Zod. in Superman 3, it's not Lex Luthor, it's Diet Lex Luthor, because Gene Hackman didn't want to come back, so they had to replace him with essentially Diet Lex Luthor, played by Robert Vaughn, I believe. And then Superman 4, he comes back with his ungodly, annoying nephew, played by John Cryer, in addition to 2 Bizarro clones. And then in Superman Returns, he's played by Kevin Spacey. And then Man of Steel skips that, yes. But then in Batman vs. Superman, he is the villain, essentially, once again. Guys, come on. Can we just fucking stop with this guy? Please. Like, okay, say what you will about Batman and the Joker, but at least, like, in terms of, okay, so let's look at the 7 movies. The 7 movies we got with, or 8 now, including the Batman. We've gotten 2 of those movies had the Joker in it. 2 of them. And if we're 9, if we're including Batman the movie, that would be 3. So that's 33%.
Yeah,
shows, yes, Joker is popular because Jared Leto never fought Ben Affleck's Batman. Ben Affleck's Batman never got a solo movie, so he's kind of like a weird case because he was kind of like a side villain in Suicide Squad, and then he technically had that scene in Zack Snyder's Justice League, so it's complicated. So I'm just gonna remove that because DCU stuff never happened. Between the 2 of them specifically, like we had one scene in Suicide Squad and another scene in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but it's like weird. We didn't get a full movie of Batman versus the Joker. In Batman Returns, we got Catwoman and the Penguin and kind of sort of Max Schreck, Christopher Walken's character. Batman Forever, we got Two-Face and the Riddler. Batman and Robin, we got Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, and Bane. Then in Batman Begins, we got Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow. In The Dark Knight, we got the Joker again. And then in Dark Knight Rises, we got Bane again, but this time actually good, unlike Batman Returns. And then in the Batman, we got the Riddler again. So yeah, there is some repeats, yes. Oh, and Dark Knight Rises also had Catwoman, but she was more like she was kind of antagonistic, but more of like a side character. And then Batman the movie had Catwoman, Penguin, Joker, and Riddler. Like, so we've gotten, don't get me wrong, we've gotten a lot of Riddler, we've gotten a lot of Joker, got a bit of Catwoman, we've got a bit of Penguin. I understand that. And while, Batman has gotten a lot of, villains, and we've only seen kind of the same 5, at least that's 5.
Right.
With Superman, we've gotten 2. And one of those guys,
Luthor,
one of those guys has appeared like 5 or 6 times at this point. It's just sickening at this point. We are so fucking sick of this guy. Don't get me wrong. And it's a shame because I hate to badmouth him because Lex Luthor is a great villain. And I mean, look at that face. Look at that. I don't care. I'm sorry. I know the people in the chat were shit talking Jesse Eisenberg. I get it. But like that face, like, look at he's such a he was, with the way he did his Lex Luthor, I still like it. Like, I don't like Zack Snyder's movies. I don't like Man of Steel. I think BVS is okay, but he was so good as this iteration. What they were,
it was creepy, and then the music that they had. I'm like, oh my, like that. It's completely creep the fuck. And also, like, so for the modern day, like, he fit that whole Mark Zuckerberg vibe,
like that
he did the social
kind
network.
of like stuttering, kind of autistic Mark Zuckerberg type of thing. That's what he was going for. But again, if you watch the movie, again, it's not a great movie. I know Dan likes these movies more than me, and that's okay. I'm not shit talking anybody. I'm just saying personally, I don't really like Zack Snyder's superhero movies outside of Watchmen. So, but what BVS did, there was like a weird sort of vision behind it, I guess. Like it weirdly worked. It worked and didn't, and you could see like the real Lex Luthor like behind him. A lot of people forget like his philanthropy, his like, I love the people of Metropolis. That's a front for him being a sociopath. Here, it's him being this weirdo, like, guy who's like
Yeah.
is like it's sort of like, I don't want to say weirdo because he's like kind of like into that like autistic sort of like not good in
Well,
social situations, kind of
it's
like
just
out
he's
there
introverted,
mentality.
yeah, like, almost
Yeah,
he's on the spectrum
introverted
in
kind
some
of
way, like,
guy.
I mean, yeah, and
It's
it's sort of
just
off
that
kilter. Yeah, yeah,
modern take, and then
yeah.
but deep inside, we still have that same core Lex Luthor. It's just the front is different. And again, he brought Superman to his knees without kryptonite. That says a lot. So,
That's definitely true. He's the only one to
um,
do that.
so I think there is some sort of merit with Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Is it a perfect portrayal? No. I prefer more of the stone cold, like like Michael Rosenbaum. Just pluck Michael Rosenbaum. Just watch every episode with Michael Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor, and then boom, there you go. Just do that. Boom, do that. And that's what you should do. With this is concerning for a lot of reasons. It's not just the fact we've seen Lex Luthor so many fucking times, but in addition to the fact audiences might not be the most intelligent, but they are still pretty smart, and you got to treat them like that. If they see that, and the thing is, they don't know like we're the nerds and geeks and dorks and dweebs who like read every article, who read like every sort of little thing about these movies, who look inside the deep and nitty gritty. So we dissect it and analyzing what we're doing now. General audiences aren't going to do that. They're just going to see a headline and be like, "Okay, we're getting Lex Luthor again. Didn't we get this guy like fucking 10 years ago already? 15 years ago before that? 20 years ago before that?" It's like what are we going to do? And then that doesn't even count for TV shows, you know? Like
Yeah,
say what
yeah.
you will, at least I'll give them this. Superman and Lois, God bless them. They didn't introduce Lex Luthor until essentially season 4, end of season 3 into season 4. So good on them for that. Thank fucking God. And they actually introduced intriguing villains because God knows Superman has intriguing villains that you can use. So general audiences are going to see this and like, well, why do I want to see another movie with Lex Luthor? Sure, it might be safe because it's a name that people know, but then at the same time, you have those, smarter, you know,
It's
audience members that are going to see like, hey, we're sick of this, so like, I don't want to see this. And you already
well,
have this shaky foundation that general audiences now might not see this movie because
and I
of the villain, which is a little bad. But what do you have to
right.
say?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut you off, but I'm
No,
just
no, you're
like trying
good.
to get
I'm filibustering.
James Gunn's post, which kind of started this whole thing. I mean, it says it's on the screen. Like the primary protagonist of Superman is shockingly Superman. And so I don't know, maybe he just got tired of rumors and stuff, or like because people are like, is the engineer gonna be the antagonist? Is Superman kind of gonna be his own enemy? Like, is there gonna be a villain at all? We were talking about, is there gonna be like a situation where Clark Kent and Lex Luthor are sort of friends and sort of are familiar with each other, and then one of them, of course, I mean, and on maybe they don't even know, or maybe Lex Luthor knows Clark Superman, but I mean, whatever. But the weird dynamic. But then James Gunn is like, well, I'll clear this all up right now. The main villain of Superman is shockingly Lex Luthor, and then the rest of it seems like almost like a mini rant. Like, I don't know where all this stuff is coming from. That is something other than this.
He's been
There are
dealing with this
so
for
many stories
years.
coming. It's
That's fair. I can kind of see that.
I get that, but I'm like, this is also like, if I was in his position, I wouldn't put this out there. I like, because it's almost like you're publicly, and somebody in his position, like I feel like you stay above it, like no matter what.
Yeah.
And to that end,
He should have just said no like he usually does.
yeah,
Like somebody texts him on Threads
yeah,
or like posts something and like, "Hey, is this true?" He just say, "No, it's not true." He just should have went with that. But now the fact he let this out is like again, it's tiring because it's like,
yeah,
especially it's a movie that's been described when it was during the initial announcement. It was, I know that's changed because like I assume the movie has changed, but if we're still going by that early summary that he posted in that big, announcing all the movies and shows, oh, this is about Superman becoming one with more of his
right,
Kryptonian heritage. wouldn't it make more sense to get like Brainiac as the villain? Like sort of like a guy who's finally getting in touch with his original home planet, and then he finds out
Yeah.
that like Brainiac is coming for him, and now he's like almost an Avenger, like he's avenging his home planet. That could have been really interesting. Or bring in like a lesser
That's a
known
really good
villain like
idea.
the Eradicator. And then
Yeah.
eventually that could even like set up like Death of Superman if you do plan to do that eventually. Hell, I would take smaller villains like Bizarro or Livewire or Metallo, Toyman. I would have taken those guys. Adapt
Yeah.
for the man who has
Yeah.
everything, or
But I mean, look,
Atomic Skull. I would take him. Like it's just like I feel like Superman has like all these great Ultra Humanite, Parasite, Mister Mixie's
this
Pitlick.
is
Love to see that. Mongol. Like these are all great villains.
a
It's just
lot of
like
options.
Bruno
Yeah.
Mannheim and Intergang, that would be fucking cool. Like just go through the Wikipedia page and just read off all these great villains that you could have that you won't use because you're so fucking hung up on Lex Luthor. And it's just infuriating at this point. I was initially, when this was announced by James Gunn, I'm like, this movie's gonna suck. And then once he posted more and more and more, like the casting, the heroes, like all this stuff, and he seems so passionate, his inspiration, I was getting really, really excited. That's dropped considerably now. Like I'm not like
I mean,
mad. I'm not like
this
not
might
gonna
have been a
see it.
mistake. Yeah.
This might
Like,
have been a big mistake because
uh,
now, like,
yeah.
I guess it gives us a more realistic look. Like we're so excited, and then we see Lex Luthor's the main villain while we watch the movie or see the trailer, and then it goes down. I guess this like gives us it snaps like for me personally. I don't know if like
Yeah.
this really fucked it up for you, but for me, it really snapped me back into reality. It's like, oh, we're just gonna get another Superman movie.
Another.
That's gonna be maybe
Yeah.
fine, but like, is it gonna be the next greatest thing ever? I don't believe that anymore because of this, which is a real shame because I was excited. And I do think James Gunn is gonna give us at least a good Superman movie, but I don't think he's gonna give us an amazing Superman movie because we're just
Well,
retreading
look,
old ground,
this is
trying to
right. I hear you, but like, to me, this is starting to become like I'm starting to get a clearer picture of what's going on here. Like what seems to be going on with this movie is the more we hear, especially with this, has become very clear that James Gunn is very serious about the idea that he wants to create the new definitive version of Superman. And in every which
Yeah.
way, he's starting with like all the cornerstones. He wants to and this is going to be a foundational movie. And so he's like, who better to do it with than the most iconic villain for the most iconic character and the most iconic everything. So you're getting a Jimmy Olsen, you're getting all of that stuff. Whereas with Man of Steel, we were on the complete other end of the spectrum where they were trying to completely reinvent Superman for the modern day. I feel like James Gunn is trying to go back maybe a little too far to where we were before, because again, like you said, we have seen it a lot. I did want to, before we finish this segment real quick, I did want to quickly touch upon David Cornsweet recently. He teased like the vibe of what this movie is going to be, and I think we haven't really heard a ton from him since he started I mean, even bulking up for the movie. But he mentioned that I think this was at an event where he was signing some merchandise for fans, and then he brought up he was asked, and he said like, hey, it looks like the tone of this movie is going to be very much inspired by Superman for All Seasons and All Star Superman, but quote unquote, it's totally going to be its own thing. And you know what, I want to actually throw a big shout out, because for the weekend I was down in Jersey for work, and then I had a chance to drop by a comic book store down there, and I was like, hey, I need to add to my relatively small collection, because I haven't really been collecting comics for some time. And this is before this story from David Cornsweet, like him talking about it at this event. And I picked up an edition of All Star Superman, and I picked up an edition of For All Seasons, and these were like recommendations from the guys who work there. And guess what? Like, they gave me a card, and they're like, you guys should come check out their YouTube channel, Final Boss Game Comics and Games, which also was WrestleMania weekend. The Rock's going by the Final Boss. I was like, I gotta give these guys a shout out. It was like all these things coming together, and I got a bunch of like really cool comics. So, like, now I've got a lot of reading to do, because if David Cornsweet says this is the tone of the movie, then I need to know about it.
Both
So,
of those are on my shelf. I would go
dude,
get them, but I
yeah.
can't right now. But
No,
they
I
are
mean, I
both
mean,
on
I
my
just had them
shelf.
sitting here. So,
I read Superman for All Seasons last year. Excellent. I have yet to read All Star Superman. Yes, I know, but I have. It's usually on my desk. It's not here. But I borrowed three books from a friend of mine, and so I'm kind of trying to get through those. I'm a very slow reader nowadays, so I'm trying to get through those. It's What If Stan Lee Wrote the DC Universe? So I'm reading those right now, and so because I want to give those back to him. So I'm trying to read that right now. But eventually, maybe now I'll finally read All Star Superman because one of the greatest Superman stories of all time. So
absolutely.
obviously,
It's great. And when you see these comments from David Cornswell, like, when you are playing the character of Superman, you are basically the face of the franchise. I mean, Batman will be the face of the franchise eventually because that's I like to say DC Comics is a house that Batman built. It's DC stands for Detective Comics, but even the people working in DC, like Jim Lee, everybody, they will say Superman is DC. Superman is the poster child of DC. He's the guy you put up front and center. And to that end, David Cornsweet is now in a very enviable position as the lead of this whole franchise. So it's great to see that that he's got a very positive outlook for this, because in light of this Lex Luthor news, we need something to look forward to, and I'm looking forward to still. I want to see that full suit.
I'm looking forward to it.
So
It's just
yeah,
now James Gunn has extra work to do for me personally. He has to really impress me to
yes, gotta get
really
the good
if you're
trailer out.
fucking
Yes.
introducing Lex Luthor again, you got to make the greatest fucking Superman movie ever fucking made to really
Yeah.
like get people on your side with this, because
Yeah.
it's a shaky foundation, and now people are even more shaky with this announcement. So we'll see. I'm still optimistic, just now more cautiously optimistic than
That's
straight
fair.
up optimistic.
That's fair. And I
Again,
agree with you on
personally.
that. Yes. No, and it's completely fair. So look, guys, if you have any thoughts on this, I know like we have got Hunter Iggy in the chat. We have had like people hanging out with us all day. You've got Y Arc 9, Fiona was here. Like you guys are excited about this movie. We are, on different sides of the fence at this point. John and I were both very looking forward to it. I still am looking forward to it.
Yeah,
John
same
is
here.
a little more skeptical. You're right, but like you're
Yeah.
a little more skeptical because of the Lex, right? But like to that end, look, we'll see if the movie bombs or not. I mean, Hunter Iggy, you asked this question, so I'll say, like, as of right now, nothing that we're hearing here is going to determine whether this movie makes money or not. What's going to determine whether it's make money or not is when you see the first trailer drops, and then you start to like build some expectations. Ultimately, if the movie's good, people are going to go see it again and again. They're going to bring their friends, their family, and everybody. So it has to be a good movie. That's what's going to decide whether this movie bombs or not. And yeah, I mean, we'll be back here talking about it more and more in the coming days. And if there's any news like out there, like we're gonna be on top of it. If there's that first picture of the full soul suit, I want to see that, and we'll be talking about it. And tomorrow we'll be back here because Warner Brothers,
on that lookout for that goddamn suit. We all want to see it.
You know it. And I mean, hey, but like tomorrow, we might get it tomorrow. You don't know. Like CinemaCon, Warner Brothers is making their presentation. We know they're gonna drop the first trailer for Joker Fall You Do, and we're gonna be talking about that, breaking that down here. So do make sure to join us back here on DCU Daily tomorrow when we do that. But right now, I'd like to kind of John is already
let's go. I'm excited. I'm excited for that.
Dude, it's gonna be fun. I just
I'm
want
really
the trailer to
curious
start with bad romance and like a weird echo, and then you just go from there. I'm like, yes, I'm in. So yeah. But right now we're gonna like bring Angelina back in, and we're gonna start to dive into the movie that's coming out next week. So this is the movie that I first heard about last year, and then I saw like there was a quick preview that came out, and they were like, and then I just kind of read up on what the concept of the movie is, and it just became this infatuation. I was like, I wonder how they're gonna pull this off. Like
Yeah.
Civil War, it's because at a time where like anything political is incredibly polarizing, and now all of a sudden you have a movie that literally takes like a thought experiment around this polarized world that we live in of politics, especially in the US, and it goes in, all the way into it, and we get a freaking civil war in the modern day 21st century.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? I mean, Angelina, have you watched the trailer for this? Like, what are you looking forward to this movie?
Yeah. So I've actually seen quite a fair bit of marketing for this movie. They're definitely throwing some money at the marketing. I think I've seen trailers on Instagram, TikTok, I think on Snapchat. Like I'm seeing it all over the place, all over social media. I'm excited for a Kirsten Dunst revival. We've got my, huge fan of my Friday Night Lights alumni. I never remember his name, but I remember his face. One of the primary characters. We've got, what the heck is his name? Terrible. Can't even find it. Yeah, Jesse Plemons, that guy. Thank you. So he's coming back. I haven't seen Kirsten Dunst in a movie in a minute, so it'll be good to see her.
Hey, husband-wife couple, incredibly successful, right? And
I just feel happy that they're releasing it now instead of in later in the year when the elections are happening, because
dude, but the fact that it's coming out in an election, I mean, you're right.
On an election year, it's like
it's. I mean, only A24 would do this. That's the thing.
Purpose, right? They did it on purpose.
I like to think so. I mean, and A24 is a studio that's very if there's one word that I would use to describe A24 is they're daring. Like they will take these kind of risks, and this movie is the ultimate risk. In any year, this would be a risk, no less an election year. And if you have seen the trailers and the clips for this, I'm like, they really straddle the line between it hits home and it hits hard, but no matter which side of the spectrum you are on politically, even if you're just smack dab down the middle, because it takes everything that we see in real life and it's just only half a step removed from it. So in terms of you suspend your disbelief, yet you feel like you're living in the real world and you're like, this is could be a documentary of 5 years from now almost. It will probably not be, but I'm just saying, it feels like that. It's almost, I feel like this movie has the potential to be the most gripping in that this could be very real, and in terms of just providing that metaphor and that analogy, and that's something that's analogous to what could happen in real life since District 9. If you guys remember District 9, that movie, when I watched, I'm like, Nick Offer, it's crazy. John, what are your thoughts on this? What are you gonna go watch this movie? Is this something you're looking forward to?
I wish I could say I was excited for this, but I'm not really. I'm not a political man, so I don't want to deal with political stuff. It's just kind of like ignorance is bliss. I just kind of separate myself from that and I'm happier for it. And I don't want to watch a movie based around that. Unless it's that good, unless it's amazing, maybe I'll go see it. But I'm just kind of, because it doesn't help the fact that Alex Garland's last movie was not good from what I heard. All my friends were like, this is one of the worst movies we've ever seen. So I trust them and I don't want to deal with that. I liked Annihilation. I thought Annihilation was excellent. Ex Machina was okay. The effects were amazing, but the movie was just kind of So he's kind of not really he's mostly a misdirector. So I mean, he's a great writer. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Dread, amazing movie. So I think
he created Devs. That was a fantastic show. I like that show.
I never saw that.
That was on Hulu. You guys gotta check that out.
I don't think.
Nick Offerman's in it. It's about AI and quantum computing and stuff. It's
okay.
Makes you think. It's a mini series.
But Alex Garland, I think, does have some talent, mainly in writing than directing. But I mean, if it's that good, then maybe I'll go see it. But maybe not in theaters. Maybe I'll just wait till it gets to streaming because. Again, not really interested in more of the political thing, and then I don't know. It's just it's plus it seems like it's gonna be really on the nose, which I don't like either. So
that's true.
Probably not in the same way as what was the asteroid movie on that, the DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. Don't Look Up. I don't think it's that kind of movie. It is on.
I don't know. It kind of seems like it might be, especially if you've seen some of the reviews. People are saying I don't even want to go see this movie because I can't get into it, especially when it feels like we're already on the brink of a civil war, depending on how the election goes. And I think, while I won't take it to that extreme, I feel like it's not going to be that on the nose. I think it's definitely giving some Black
Yeah.
Mirror vibes in it.
It feels like, I mean,
you know?
A24 tries to hit that vibe every time, and even when you
Yeah.
miss with like a movie like I think it was called Men, is the one that Alex Garland most recently did. It was a miss after I think him doing a lot of hits, and he's clearly got a
Yeah.
good relationship with A24. But it's as a filmmaker in this movie, like he says this in the Hollywood Reporter article that I've got on screen, where we were talking about it being released in a contentious election year. Like the idea of civil war actually keeps me up at night. That's what he said. And so, like, I think it's one of those things where Martin Scorsese says it. Like, it's like when you want to tell a story, it's like it feels like it's hurts to keep it inside. You, as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, you just have this need to tell that story. You need to tell it. It's not just something you want to tell. And I think like it feels like this story comes from that place inside Alex Garland. So as a somebody who appreciates storytellers and good storytelling, I'm willing to give it a shot, at least from that perspective, to kind of see what Alex Garland's perspective on something on this is. I mean, and you walk out of it and then you go watch an episode of Friends if that helps you kind of like wipe the
It
slate.
does feel like the kind of movie you're gonna
Yeah.
need a reset from. So
Yeah,
just be
exactly.
prepared. But sometimes we need those movies because they help move the needle and they help sort of get people thinking, which not enough people seem to do these days, y'all. Sorry, I got a little loud over here. I don't know what's going on outside. My apologies.
Well, I did want to also say, just to add, that look at the opening. The tracking is this could be the biggest opening for an A24 film ever, and Hereditary wouldn't even come close to that. Like 13.6 million would be 2/3 of what this movie is tracking for. Now that's not a big number by itself, because 20 million is a third or less. It's like a quarter of what Dune made. It's basically it's a fraction of what Godzilla vs. X Kong: The New Empire did. So it's not by any means a big number. Monkey Man did half of that, and Monkey Man has a budget of like 10 million. So it's not a big number, but by A24 standards, this looks like a big number. So I think ultimately, when you combine the subject matter, you combine the tracking, even if there's a lot of people who are going to avoid it simply because of what the movie is about, it seems like there's enough people who are willing to go and watch this thing to, give A24 a pretty good opening weekend. And then if you go by the reviews, I mean, hopefully the audience likes it just as much as the critics do in the early going. That will probably help decide just how successful this movie ultimately ends up being. The online discourse will be something, and I don't necessarily want to engage in that, but like, we're going to be here reviewing it next week. So we'll see, how that does. But guys, this has been a great episode of the show. I'm so glad that we had a chance to talk through all of these topics, whether it was Superman, Lex Luthor, that John, feels very strongly about. And I agree with him in a lot of ways. I really do. And, we'll see how that turns out. We talked about the Toretto we talked about a lot of movie news and then rated it with the Toretto meter, which I always have fun with. And then of course, Monkey Man. Like, if you guys have not gone to see that movie, like both John and Angelina recommend it. I assume you recommend based on your reviews.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Yeah. So go check that movie out, guys. It's in theaters. There's so many other movies in theaters. Civil War is coming out soon. And if you're a DC fan, then go check out something DC related. Then come right back here tomorrow, and we will be going through the review and the reaction and everything, frame by frame almost. We're going to break down Joker Folia Does.
Them?
Yes. It's going to be myself and John. We're going to be breaking down the trailer for Joker Folia 2, and then we'll be back, Monday through Friday, DC Daily. We had DC Daily today. We're going to be back here the rest of the week, and then we'll be back here with Oh So Curious next Monday. And until, next time, guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. Everybody, you guys who was in the chat, we really appreciate all the, interaction. Ask us questions. We will answer them for you. If you were watching on YouTube, hit the like button. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button. I mean, it's, like,
don't hit the dislike button. Don't tell people to do that.
Engagement, it works, right?
Comment. At least they amuse me. Come on. Also, if you guys are headed to Coachella this weekend, be safe. Other than that, stay wild. No more solar eclipses for us, and we'll see you back here soon on Oh So
Don't stare at the sun too long.
Don't
see you next time.
Don't stare at the sun at all.
Exactly.